On their way to a party, elderly couple Larry and Joan keep arguing about every topic that comes to their minds. They're so distracted that they almost crash into another car. When they make it to their son's house, Larry covers the bandage on Joan's arm with her sleeve and reminds her that she needs to tell the family about her cancer. Joan asks for one more day since she doesn't want to ruin their grandchild's gender reveal party. The family receives the couple with a warm welcome and teases them for their 65 years of marriage. They also tell Joan that they've found a box of her old pictures in the basement. One of the photos is of Joan's wedding to her first husband Luke, who died during the war. Meanwhile, Larry is having some pretzels when suddenly he starts choking. He struggles to breathe as he collapses on the floor. Seconds later, Larry is shocked to wake up in a train with pink confetti falling on his head. A kid in an oversized suit says Larry wasn't expecting it before walking away. When the train stops at the station, Larry notices that many passengers are wearing hospital gowns. He follows the passengers until he makes it to a crowded area known as the Junction, where lots of people tell him things that he doesn't understand. Larry tells the receptionist that he's been abducted, but she assures him he wasn't and he has to wait until his AC comes for him. Some hours later, most of the crowd is gone and Larry is napping on the chairs. He's awakened by Anna, who introduces herself as his AC. This stands for Afterlife Coordinator, which means Larry has died. Larry starts to deny it, but at the same time he sees the confetti and realizes his grandkid is a girl. Anna makes Larry look at himself in the mirror and he finally notices he's young again, proving her story. She explains that when people reach the junction, their forms revert to their happiest selves. As Anna guides him through the building, Larry keeps insisting that he must go back to his wife, so Anna slaps him to make him stop whining. She also clarifies that this isn't paradise, it's a brief transition between life and eternity. At that moment they hear an alarm and Larry sees a man being tackled by security. Anna warns him to never cross any red doors. Afterward, Anna takes Larry to his temporary room and leaves him brochures promoting eternities as presented by different religions. He must stay there until he chooses the right eternity for himself, and the closet has all his favorite clothes. After a quick clothes change, Larry tries to watch TV but all the channels are ads for different kinds of eternities. Then Larry explores the junction, only to find dozens of booths promoting even more eternities. Eventually he finds a bar and as soon as he takes a seat, a beautiful woman sits next to him. He tries to explain he's married, yet the woman keeps flirting to promote a naughty eternity. Thankfully bartender Luke reminds her that advertising is forbidden in the bar so she leaves. Larry wonders if the bartender is an angel, but Luke clarifies he's just a soul that got a job to stay in the junction. Since Larry is still confused, Luke shares the rules. There's no switching eternities after he's chosen, and there's no visiting other eternities either. If he breaks a rule, overstays his welcome, or tries to switch eternities, they'll put him in the void. It's a place with nothing but blackness for all eternity. Larry shares that his wife has cancer and he promised to take care of her, but now he feels guilty for abandoning her so he asks for another drink. The next morning Anna wakes Larry up by getting on his bed. While complaining about his hangover, he asks why there are souls with jobs in the junction. Anna explains that some people haven't accepted death, while others are waiting for their loved ones. The worst ones are the ones that can't choose. Larry wants to know if Joan will die soon, but they can't obtain that information. Since he decides to wait for her, Anna tells him he can get a job as a janitor after the provided 7 days, but he'll also have to move to the basement. Some days pass and there's no sign of Joan. Anna tells Larry that this could take several months, so Larry decides he'll prepare an eternity so Joan will feel at home when she arrives. That night he writes a letter to his wife explaining everything. At the same time, the cancer finally kills Joan and she wakes up on the train. The next morning, Anna is taking Larry to his eternity. He asks her to give his letter to Joan, but she explains it's against the rules and hugs him goodbye. Larry starts making his way to the station while Joan leaves the train. On the escalator, Larry is shocked to see his wife, but she doesn't notice him. A desperate Larry quickly changes lanes and rushes back to the junction, where Joan is seeing her young face in a mirror. The couple reunites with a warm hug. Joan already figured out that she's dead and scolds Larry for dying in such a stupid way. The moment is interrupted by Ryan, Joan's afterlife coordinator. He drags her away from Larry and brings her to her first husband Luke, who has been waiting for her for 67 years. They share a very sweet and emotional reunion, however Larry interrupts them because he was to take Joan away to his eternity. Joan starts having a panic attack when she realizes she must choose a husband to spend eternity with, so Ryan takes her to her room. After Joan changes into a nice dress, Ryan tries to guide her through her options. At that moment Luke comes to see her and a scared Joan slams the door in his face. Ryan thinks Luke is the better option because he was loyal for over 50 years, so he leaves them alone. Meanwhile Larry is ranting to Anna, who reveals she used to have a relationship with Ryan. She thinks Luke is extremely handsome, so Larry points out that he's the one who gave Joan 65 years of marriage and children. Anna calls it emotional blackmail. Back to Joan, she and Luke go on a walk around the junction and behave rather awkwardly. Suddenly 2 guards run nearby to catch a guy who tries to escape his eternity. One of the guards stops to say hi to Luke and immediately recognizes Joan. It seems Luke has been talking about her a lot. After they're gone, Luke explains the rules and tells Joan that he loves her. He says he thought about her every single day and shares lots of sweet words before trying to kiss her, but Joan pulls away because she feels sick. She tells Luke that she needs time to think and runs away. Minutes later, Larry bursts into Joan's room and brings her lots of options for their eternity. Joan freaks out and yells at him, reminding him that she needs time. She also reveals that after Larry's death, her best friend died too, which makes Larry happy because he hated her. He remembers that squatting always helped her calm down and convinces her to do it. As an old lady, Joan couldn't squat anymore, so it makes her happy to be able to do it again. Then Larry eats some pretzels and almost chokes again, which makes Joan freak out. She explains she needs to clear her head, so Larry apologizes for being insensitive and says they can talk in the morning. When he tries to get comfortable in her bed, Joan kicks him out. Larry tries to return to his room, however his 7 days are over, so he has to move to the basement. On the way, Larry sees a sign promoting a show by dead artist Dean Martin. Joan loves that singer, so Larry asks Anna to arrange a show. He's also disappointed to discover his new room is tiny. The next morning, Larry takes Joan to the waiting area, where Anna has brought Dean Martin to sing while she plays the piano. However, the guy starts acting strange and trips on the stairs, making them realize that this is an impersonator. Larry goes to Anna to complain and the guy uses the chance to hit on Joan. Luke quickly comes to drag him back and punch him. Then with the help of Ryan, Luke tries to give Joan flowers, but Larry immediately interrupts him to complain more. The men start arguing and Joan snaps, yelling to make them stop. Afterward, she brings Anna and Ryan to her room and yells at them for a while before asking them to find a solution. The coordinators make a very long phone call to get an exception to the rule. Moments later, Joan brings her husbands to the room and the coordinators announce that because of the unique circumstances, they've acquired special visas. Joan will be allowed 2 visits to an eternity, 1 with each husband. After spending time with them, she'll make her decision. The guys start arguing and almost get in a fight, so Joan has to yell again to stop them. She says they'll choose who goes first with a coin flip and another argument almost starts, so Ryan has to stop them this time. Larry flips the coin and Luke wins. During the train ride, Luke and Joan remember the old times. They keep smiling, but things are still very awkward between them. They arrive at a beautiful mountain surrounded by a clear sky and a welcoming forest. As they wander around, they have lots of fun together and even hold hands. In the evening, they have dinner at a restaurant and Joan keeps talking about her children and grandchildren, which makes Luke uncomfortable. He swears that he doesn't mind. What bothers him is that he couldn't have them with her. But he's glad that she had a good life. Joan tells him that she did wait for him for a while, but eventually she had to move on. Afterward, Luke takes Joan to a building called the Archives, which can be found in every eternity. Here every soul can revisit all the memories from their living years. Luke and Joan watch all the important moments of their relationship, like their first date, their first kiss, their first naughty time, their wedding day, and their final goodbye before Luke left for war. Joan tells Luke how much she missed him and they kiss. The memories keep playing, and Luke has to watch how Larry proposed to Joan. He stomps out of the building in a huff, saying that Larry took advantage of a grieving woman. Joan tries to explain it wasn't like that, but he won't listen. Meanwhile, Larry rants about Luke because he's always telling people that he died in the war to look like a hero. Larry is afraid that he can't compete with such a beloved memory, so Anna wants him to remind Joan why she fell in love with him. Larry doesn't know why Joan loves him, but he knows who may help. Minutes later, Larry finds Joan's best friend Karen, who looks rather old. Karen explains her happiest days came after her husband died because she could finally come out of the closet and get a female lover. Unfortunately, after a wonderful vacation with another woman, she had to come home and be a mother in the closet for her children. Karen admits she didn't used to like Larry, but he grew on her. Larry asks her why Joan fell in love with him and Karen says she doesn't know, but she assures him that he made her very happy. Afterward, Larry goes to Luke's room, determined to find some dirt on him. Marks on the wall indicate he's been counting the days since he died, and there are sketches of Joan in a notebook. At that moment, Luke comes back and accuses Larry of manipulating Joan, saying she would have been happier alone. The men get in a really pathetic fight and in the struggle, Larry's letter falls from his pocket. When they collapse, Larry says that he didn't know about Luke when he proposed, but Luke points out that he did it at the dock that he and Joan considered their special place. In the meantime, Joan can't stand all the advertising booths, so Ryan takes her to a quiet corridor full of signs of discontinued eternities. When she admits she still doesn't know what to do, Ryan says that Luke appears to be the best option, but the choice is hers to make. The next day, Larry takes Joan to a beach eternity, which is very popular and therefore crowded. They chat for a while and almost kiss, but at that moment a boy hits Larry with his ball and tells them about his horrifying death. Then the couple gets on a boat to enjoy the calmness of the ocean. Larry asks for the details of his funeral and apologizes for not being with her when she died. He also thinks their kids would be happy to see them together again. Joan feels like he's manipulating her and an argument ensues. Joan reminds him that she's in a complicated situation and Larry swears he would have waited for her as long as Luke did. When they return to land, Joan wants to enter the archives with Larry, but he refuses. He thinks a person can lose themselves in memories and wants to protect her, but Joan believes he's afraid of what they'll find. They sit on the shore and talk about their first date, so Larry explains he always wanted to make things better for her. In the junction, Luke finds Larry's letter and reads it. Meanwhile, Joan and Larry return from their date and share a kiss. Larry says he doesn't care where they go as long as they are together. At that moment, Luke shows up with the coordinators to tell Joan that Larry broke into his room. He also gives her the letter, and now Joan knows that Larry almost left. He only stayed because he saw her on his way out. Yet another argument begins and Joan calls Larry selfish. In return, Larry says that he's always been Joan's consolation prize and accuses Luke of a few things to try to make him look bad. Luke screams in frustration and admits he's had a few lovers over the last 67 years, but at least he waited for her. The men want her to make a decision now, but Joan needs more time, so the coordinators take them away. Moments later, Karen visits Joan with a drink, and Joan finally breaks down. Karen comforts her and takes her out to various fun booths to distract her. Joan keeps drinking and ranting about her situation, so Karen reminds her that she's dead. That means she has no obligations to anyone and can start with a clean state. At the bar, Larry and Luke are drinking too much, which helps them get along and even bond. They compliment each other and even say that Joan doesn't deserve them. The next morning, Joan wakes up with a hangover, but she's made her decision. She calls her husbands and says she's lucky to have them both, so maybe things happen the way they were meant to. No matter who she chooses, she'll end up feeling guilty, so she announces she chooses neither of them and leaves with tears in her eyes. Afterward, Joan gets ready to leave and spend her eternity with Karen. Meanwhile, Larry tells Luke that he was right. He proposed on the dock because Luke always was the ghost he couldn't compete with. He wonders if he choked on the pretzel because he saw the wedding picture. In return, Luke admits he's very jealous of the life Larry built with Joan. The guys then share why their bodies chose these forms. Luke looks like the day he and Joan discussed starting a family, while Larry looks like the time Joan was pregnant with their second child. Suddenly, Larry realizes something and rushes out of the room. At the station, Larry finds Joan in the train and asks her to get off for a final talk. He points out that her hair is long, but she always wore it short during their marriage. That means she was the happiest with Luke, so he wants her to go with him. At first, Joan denies it, but Larry insists it's the right thing. They both cry as they share their last hug. Sometime later, Luke and Joan are on a train to their eternity. Larry is wandering the junction because he still doesn't know where to go and discovers that Anna and Ryan are back together. Anna talks to Larry in private and tells him she's proud of him. She explains that she chose to stay in the junction because helping lost souls gave her purpose, and Larry helped her remember why she loves this job. In the mountain's eternity, Joan and Luke start a new life together. They have fun on dates and befriend other souls. In the evening, they finally get to be naughty. After Luke falls asleep, Joan starts feeling some doubts and decides to visit the archives, where she watches the memory of the day she met Larry. During the next few days, Luke keeps taking Joan on all kinds of activities with other souls, but Joan doesn't have a good time. Every night, she visits the archives and revisits more of her memories with Larry. The archives clerk tells her it's not healthy to spend so much time there and that it's important to move on. One night, Luke says that this is truly the perfect life, and Joan doesn't know what to answer. The next morning, Luke announces he's booked another activity and Joan finally breaks down. She says she made a mistake by choosing him, causing Luke to get angry and start yelling. Joan explains that she was the happiest with him because it was young, foolish love without the burden of mortgage, jobs, and kids. However, love is supposed to be more than that. It should include the bad moments too. She also thinks that Luke is in love with the Joan from 67 years ago and never moved on, but she's changed and isn't the same person anymore. Joan then announces she'll try to go back, even if it means risking getting caught. She cries as she tells Luke she did love him, but he walks away. Some hours later, Joan is trying to make a plan to escape while practicing with a knife. After thinking a lot about the situation, Luke comes back and agrees to be her distraction. The duo goes to the archives and Luke pretends to have a breakdown in front of the clerk. While the man comforts him, Joan sneaks inside. Then Luke also goes in as a normal client. He and Joan watch their wedding memory and say a final goodbye. Joan sneaks behind the memory and goes through the red door, which takes her to a corridor with her childhood memories. At that moment, she hears the alarm and the guards coming, so she runs until she finds a door in the memory of two soldiers informing her of Luke's death. A washing machine door drops her into a memory of her arguing with Larry. The guards are still coming, so Joan blocks the door with a chair and rushes upstairs, where she finds her old self. Old Joan says Larry's name before young Joan tries to hide under the bed. The guards are behind her, but she keeps on crawling until she appears on the train tracks. By walking down the tunnel, Joan manages to return to the junction. She tries to ask the receptionist about Larry, but at that moment she receives a wanted sign and Joan has to run again. In the booth area, she bumps into Ryan and Anna, who make her hide and tell the guards she went in the opposite direction. Then she asks them what eternity Larry went to, however the coordinators shock her with the answer. In the bar, Joan finds Larry working as a bartender. They share a drink and Joan asks Larry to come with her, but she warns him it may be dangerous because she's a fugitive. Larry agrees to do it anyway. Moments later, the couple is in an eternity that copies the neighborhood they lived in during their entire married life. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.